Willow poisons Drew to steal his power, kidnaps Willie and Amelia, and they vanish from General Hospital.
Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The tension in Port Charles had been building for months, layer upon layer of secrets, betrayals, and half-truths that ultimately burst like a dam under constant pressure. Willow Kane, formerly regarded as the epitome of calm resilience and moral strength, had changed in ways few could have anticipated. Her marriage to Drew Kane, which had begun as a source of hope after her leukemia fight and convoluted history with Michael Corinthos, had devolved into something dark and dominating. Drew's political ambitions had overtaken him, transforming him into a power-hungry man, and Willow, in her desire to defend her fragile new existence, had crossed borders she never expected to. Drew's unexpected, mysterious fall was the key to uncovering the truth. What the doctors initially diagnosed as a stroke-like incident was not a natural condition. Willow had administered a potent, untraceable paralytic provided by the enigmatic Jens Sidwell, a man whose sway extended to the darkest reaches of Port Charles. Sidwell had his own goal, and he used Willow as a puppet to accomplish his plans by installing her in Drew's congressional seat. Willow had consented, certain that it was the only way to escape Drew's oppressive grip and guarantee a future for herself and her two children, Wiley and Amelia. She had convinced herself that it was just temporary and that Drew would recover, but the medicine held him in a state of partial consciousness, able to blink replies but otherwise helpless. Willow maintained the illusion for weeks. She visited Drew in the hospital and then brought him home to their carefully groomed existence, tending to him with outward devotion while secretly plotting her next move. Sidwell's warnings loomed large. He knew what she had done and used it as a weapon, reminding her that one wrong move could cost her everything, even her children. Willow clung to her visitation rights with Wiley and Amelia, which had only recently been restored following painful custody fights with Michael. The children were her anchor, her reason for bearing the guilt that gnawed at her in quiet moments. But mysteries in Port Charles rarely remained hidden. Whispers began to circulate, first among the Quartermains, then throughout the police department, where Dante Falconeri and others detected something suspicious in Drew's health. Kai Taylor, ever the watchful outsider, had even installed a hidden camera in the house, motivated by his own concerns about Willow's behavior. Michael Corinthos, still wounded from his failed marriage to Willow, watched from a distance, torn between lingering affection and growing conviction that she had gone too far. The revelation was sudden and explosive. It was not a big courtroom confession or a police raid. It was quieter and more upsetting. Sidwell confronted Drew, who had begun to regain bits of clarity, and revealed the truth. He admitted to supplying the drug and described how Willow had been convinced, coerced, and tricked into it. Drew's eyes, the only part of him that remained truly alive, burned with betrayal as Sidwell teased him with the information. The words rang throughout the room, and despite Drew's inability to speak, the anguish was evident. Word spread quickly. Willow's mother, Nina Reeves, discovered portions of it first and attempted to protect her daughter, but the dam had burst. Michael overheard a conversation at Metro Court, where Willow had met Nina to discuss her new agenda. A life free of Drew's shadow, possibly even running for Congress, which Laura Collins had unexpectedly embraced. Michael's rage flared, and he addressed Willow indirectly, then directly. The truth about the drugging surfaced in fragments. The paralytic, the connection with Sidwell, and the purpose, which was based on fear and ambition. Willow felt the walls close in. She had always prided herself on being the good one, the survivor who rose above her background as Harmony Miller's daughter and the lies of her past. But now that she was exposed, she saw only one way forward: flight. Losing Wiley and Amelia again was unfathomable. When the complete tale was out, the courts would rule in Michael's favor. She would be labeled a threat, unfit criminal. Sidwell's leverage would dissipate the instant the truth became known, and he would dismiss her without hesitation. Willow made her decision in the depths of night, when Port Charles slept in the rare February cool. She packed light, only the essentials, cash she had surreptitiously withdrawn, and bogus documents. Sidwell has previously prepared for emergencies. She strolled quietly around the house, stopping at Drew's bedside. He lay there, eyes wide, watching her with a mix of accusation and plea. She murmured empty apologies and turned away. Wiley and Amelia were staying with her that week, a valuable visitation period she had worked so hard to get. They slept in their rooms, naive and unknowing. Willow gently awakened them up, telling them they were going on a surprise adventure to new areas. Wiley, sensitive above his years, rubbed his eyes and inquired as to why Daddy had not arrived. Willow faked a grin, explaining that Daddy needed rest and that this was all for them. Amelia, younger and more trusting, grabbed her favorite stuffed bear and followed without hesitation. They slipped out the back door, avoiding the main streets where security cameras or nosy neighbors could catch them. Willow was waiting with a bland rental automobile procured under a fake identity. She belted the kids in, her hands quivering as she started the engine. The journey out of town seemed long. Every headlight in the rearview mirror made her heart race, afraid that Michael or the cops were closing in. Willow's mind raced as they approached the highway, considering the consequences. Kidnapping, there was no kinder term for it. She had already removed the children without their permission, crossing state lines in her thoughts. Michael would be frantic, utilizing every resource Sonny Corinthos could provide. The Quartermaines would rage, and Alexis Davis would take legal action with brutal efficiency. Even Nina may turn against her once she realizes the whole depth. Willow pushed those thoughts away and concentrated on the road ahead. She persuaded herself it was just temporary, that she would find a quiet area, possibly somewhere overseas where extradition was difficult, and start afresh. The children would adjust. They loved and needed her. She'd given up too much, her health, her integrity, and her marriage, to lose them now. Hours have passed. Wiley became restless in the back car, asking when they'd stop for lunch. Amelia dozed on his shoulder. Willow stopped into a rest area as morning broke, purchasing snacks and coffee with cash. She felt a stab of doubt as she watched the youngsters eat, their little faces illuminated by the fluorescent light. Was it love or selfishness? Protection or destruction? Back on the road, her phone had been left behind to avoid tracking, so she had no way of knowing about the storm raging in Port Charles. Michael had discovered the vacant house, the missing children, and Willow's disappearance. Panic set in, prompting calls to the police, Carly, and anyone else who could help. The PCPD was activated, notifications were sent out, and descriptions were broadcast. Willow drove north, then west, zigzagging to confound any pursuers. She stopped at motels using fictitious names, paying in advance and keeping the children close. Wiley started asking harder questions like why they couldn't call Dad and why Mommy was so scared. Willow told stories of adventure, but the lies tasted terrible. Days blurred. Exhaustion settled in. The kids missed their routines, friends, and toys. Amelia wailed for her bed, and Wiley fell silent, observing Willow with eyes too knowing for a child. Willow's determination weakened during calm moments. She considered turning back and facing the music, but the thought of prison, of losing them forever, kept her captive. In one little town, she stopped near a park and watched the kids play from a bench, laughing for the first time in days. A normal moment, brief. However, a news alert on a passerby's phone drew her attention. Her face, the children's, and an amber alert. She gathered them swiftly, pulse racing, and drove on. Willow's world had been shattered after the secret was revealed. What began as a desperate attempt to maintain power and family has spiraled into something irreparable. She was no longer the nurse, mother, or survivor. She was a fugitive, driven by love turned into desperation. Port Charles sought extensively. Michael determined to locate them. His rage turning to terror. Drew was still locked in his body and could only wait. Sidwell observed from the shadows, amused or planning his next move. Willow continued driving, the horizon limitless and the future undetermined. The youngsters slept in the rear, trusting her despite their doubts. She muttered promises she wasn't sure she could keep, They'd be protected, and she'd make things right somehow. But deep down she understood the truth. Once the secret was out, there was no turning back. Willow had chosen the long, dark, and cruel path ahead of her alone, carrying the two most valuable aspects of her life with her into the unknown.